right.
All right, dude.
So, first rule of technical setups is you got to hit record. Everyone's done it on a gig at one point or another. Everybody's done it.
Yeah, okay.
God, I could have swore I was recording.
Okay.
It's like, hey, we got audio. Great.
We got this. We got this. Okay. All right. We got this. Where do we start?
Welcome to the car.
Yeah, right.
We're here.
You're my first guest on this series of event folks in cars getting drive-through coffee. Since I've started with Evolve, I've never driven through Orlando much. You know, I'm always passing through working, so fly in, fly out.
Yeah, gig life.
Yeah, exactly.
Uber, taxi to the hotel.
So this was like my first office per se, where I report to somewhere now. You know, I drive in. So, like, I've always thought that, like, the traffic, whenever you see the memes or stuff like that about Orlando traffic, I'm like, oh, whatever. But once you start driving here, it's like, dude, this is real. This is a real thing. Like, this is absolutely...
The struggle is real.
Dude, real, right? What is it? Okay, so, we'll get into tech talk and stuff in a second, but, like, is it the theme parks or...
It's a little blend of we're a melting pot. You know, as it's all good. That's what our country is.
Sure.
But we get a lot of people. English might not be their first language. They may not have driven in whatever country that they came from.
Right.
But they came here. They got their license and they're on the road. Orlando is not like a lot of the cities I've lived in that the roads are well organized and structured and roundabouts and ways to keep things flowing. So there's a lot of congestion because of that. The other is same difference in the tourists. They do not drive at home. At home they're on the wrong side of the road by U.S. standards, and they show up here and they rent a car.
Yeah.
And they get behind the wheel.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's game on, and it was never unusual a couple decades ago that there was always guaranteed sometime during the week you're going to get a car coming down the wrong way on the freeway. It's going to happen no matter what. It happened every single week. Not as much now, but it still does. So we get a lot of rookie drivers, I guess is what I would say.
Being that, coming to the office and then we're like I know the convention side and things like that of the city. How would you feel logistically with the new, because this new shop's like, how long has Evolve been?
We've been in this space for about a little bit over 8.5 years. Okay. First tenant, first building, first move in. It was just a desolate little area under development. Now I believe there's 14 or 15 buildings, and even the traffic in and out of here is more congested than it was. We used to be the only people. It was easy getting in and out.
How would you feel, like, logistically speaking, like where the shop is here, like, with the locations of like the convention space? Would you feel like it's pretty efficient? Because I like everyone's around this little area, and it feels pretty easy for like us to come in, do our tech, our prep. How would you feel logistically speaking?
We're in a good spot in that we as a rental house we do a lot of things by air. So, it's an easy run over to the airport to hit freight forwarders and cargo. We're, give or take, 15 to 20 minutes from iDrive and most of the properties there. A quick jump on the expressways and you're out at the Disney and that hotel property. So you kind of like to say, in Orlando, we use miles. So everything is 5 to 10 miles. It's not measured in time. In Atlanta, everything is, it's 30 minutes, it's 40 minutes an hour.
Yeah.
It may only be 5 miles, but it's 30 minutes.
Right.
Here we still use miles as a reference, so that is helpful.
Would you say, okay, so how big was this shop compared to the old shop?
Night and day. This space when we originally moved in was 20,000 square feet. What we were moving out of was 6,000 square feet. So it was a massive change in capabilities in space. The old shop was ground level. It was garage doors. It was a couple of, actually, you know what? We're coming up on the road. Why don't you make a right here? We'll go check out the old shop. It was something to behold. It was a moment of pride back when Tyler had started Evolve, that he moved out of his garage into this warehouse. And then a huge boost when he said, hey, we need more, and we doubled down from his initial 3,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet. But it was just a garage building. It was our neighbor. One was a tire company, one was like a window tinting company, and then there was Evolve tucked in the middle between them.
Wow. Like, okay, so I have to ask, like, in my experience, you know, I've always heard, like, you know, if I'm helping a client and, you know, small AV company or something like that, to all the, you know, to like the bigger ones, like I always hear like, oh yeah, this company started with, like, you know, just one boardroom little projector. What would you say were like the first pieces?
Being a video engineer, Tyler, of course, focused on video, and he always thought that he worked for me freelance, and I was using the Screen Pro Plus and Screen Pro and trying to pull off events, and he said there's a new box coming out that was the Screen Pro 2. Mm-hmm. So he wanted a Screen Pro 2, and it wasn't just going to be the box. He was going to gig it out. He was going to put it in a rack with routing and scaling. Take it right here. And scaling and conversion, everything that he would need to do a all-on, you know, one screen show. So that's what he bought first, and that grew into some iMacs that he could do some editing on, and then some downstage. Hang a left. Yeah, we'll pull in here and take a look, kind of see if you can see the front of the building. But this was it. You know, we were a cornerstone in over here. We had 2 of the suites at one point, and it was all ground level. And so we had a 26-foot truck, but you couldn't park the truck here outside because it would completely block the entire car park. Wow. So every day we had to pull the truck inside of the building, and that's where we kept it because there was no room to park it outside. Wow. And so this was it. From that garage door straight ahead, the second door in, where this President's Cars is. It was that garage door, that little office suite, and then when he expanded, we took the next one over with that office suite and that garage door. But they were just mere replicates of each other, and we just cut a hole in the wall between them, and we brought equipment in on the right-hand dock and went through the QC process and onto the shelf, or moved over to the other side onto the shelf. And when we staged and prepped events, it was at that garage door straight ahead, and we'd pull the truck out, stage the show, lift gate down, load it up, and then pull the truck back inside if it wasn't leaving right away. But it was a shuffle all the time. One of those shuffles ended up I had a brand new Grand Cherokee, you know, gray. It was a beautiful car, and I parked right there in the last parking spot. And Dan Velchik, God bless his little heart, was taking the truck back to go drop off some lighting, and he pulled out of that garage door, hung a left to head out, and the back end of the truck swerved over and completely sideswiped the entire side of my Jeep. So it was at the body shop before it ever had an oil change.
Whoa. So
those were the fun days, and there's the staff was myself and Tyler and Dan Velchik and Josh Richardson, who's back with us now. Josh, that's a whole other story, but yeah, he's a young guy that we got into the industry. I did it at Strong back in the day, as a recommendation to hire, and then I recommended him to Tyler, and he's built a great career out of being, you know, in this industry. So
I could just imagine the Jeep, like, park it, have a little rag, give it a little
polishing it,
you know,
make sure all the bugs are
walk
off.
in and ding, you know, okay, it's gonna be a great day today.
The problem was that Dan didn't even know he did it.
Oh, bummer.
The garage door was open, and Josh knew that he did it.
Right.
And he came and told me.
Oh, my God.
The rubber bumper piece off the back of the truck, the soft spot for you're supposed to put it hit against the dock, was laying right there next to the little crumpled metal of my truck. So yes, it was. There's no getting away from that one.
I'm sure you've seen some changes. You know what I mean? Like, you know, especially with Evolve. you know, this was awesome seeing the old, like, where it all eventually, or where it all really started, you know what I mean? You know, even in my experience, every time I would get a piece of Evolve gear, it's like, you get this like awesome new car like experience when you open it up. You open whatever the
Right.
box might be. And I'll always tell people that, like, you know, in the past, before my life at Evolve, that was the cool thing that I always thought about Evolve. You know, Evolve adapted to change. What I mean by that is, like, okay, you gave me the story of, like, it went from like the house to here to what it is now. So it's adapted, right?
Right.
What do you feel like is the next phase of adaptation, whether it's like equipment or, like, you know, what would you feel that next thing is? Or do you even think that kind of...
I think that, you know, the pandemic raised a lot of ruckus with everybody. You had to make some business decisions and try to find a way to navigate through that. And Evolve did. We did, you know, we came through it and came out the other side. Now, the focus we're in right now is we're going to go back to that core values of video gear, high-end stuff. We always said that we were going to buy the big boy toys that our clients didn't want to spend the money on because they didn't need it that much. So we would own all the big boy toys, and that one client would rent it a couple times, and this guy would rent it a couple times, and that person would rent it a couple times. And at the end of the year, we'd have enough rentals, and it would be profitable for everybody. I think that using that as a foundation, the idea is that we need to always be looking at what is that next big boy toy, that thing that everybody wants but they don't really need all the time. And that's what the solutions team we have. It's like, I need that you guys are out there feeling the pulse and looking at the cool things coming up and coming back and saying, okay, we need this one maybe not, but we'll file it away for later. But I think that's what Evolve has always been the best at, is looking at what's coming down the pipe, getting our fingers on it early, and investing in it big enough to be a staple of the industry, saying, hey, we've got that for you in quantity, not just one or two.
Awesome. That is very well said. And yeah, that's pretty much right on it. Like, so a little backstory on what Huskey is, right? Okay. So before Evolve, you were PM on sites?
Yeah, I followed a path that many people understood. I started as a warehouse guy, became a driver, delivering and doing small setups, ran a hotel property for a few years that I'd rather not talk about. That was not a high point of my career.
I think everyone has been down that road.
And then and did a stint as operations, but really where I excelled was working with the people and the organization and planning and project managing. So Blumberg, the company at the time, saw that in spades and moved me back to Minnesota at one point to kind of start what was our staging division up north. So hire the lighting guy, hire an audio guy, bring on your video people, and build a team, a core group of traveling technicians. So I started then and loved that part of it. It's when I finally realized what I truly enjoy about our industry was that going into an empty ballroom, converting it into a magical place, and then getting it the heck out of there in the shortest time possible. It's what I feel is my niche, what I really enjoyed. So yeah, I project managed, ran gear, you know, as a technician. I have some people that I've worked with for a long time, and they gave me a nickname Slash. And it was because it's Bob Huskey, project manager. Oh yeah, slash video engineer, slash playback guy, slash A2, slash lighting guy, slash. So I would take whatever, I'd wear whatever hat needed to be worn at any given time.
Yeah.
I think we're
am I okay to?
Well, you're from Vegas. You can drive anywhere you want. You know, we know you guys don't pay much attention to one way and do not enters. You know, I think we missed our original thing.
Yeah.
So I used to laugh at that little moniker.
Slash, I like that.
Slash, and he still to this day, his buddy and his wife that I've worked with for a few decades, they still use that name and call me Slash because it's fun.
So okay, so that being said, what's like your earliest memory that like you can okay, I got a story for you, Joaquin. Like what's like one thing that can pop in your head from those times that you want to. Anything you want to?
Well, I think that anybody that's been around as long as many of us have and done as many gigs as you've done, there's enough stories that we could kill a couple bottles of alcoholic beverages talking about. But I still think one of my highlights was like one of those last minute saves during a show, and these were in the early days, when we were converging, getting away from the 3-gun projectors to the big Barco light cannons, they were called. The Barco, I think it was the 5000 or the 5100s, and they were big, they were bright at 2000 lumens, but they were finicky. And we were at an event, I think it was Atlanta. They were inverted, flown up in the ceiling, we'd already rolled walk-in music, and they're getting ready to open the doors, and stage right screen went down, and they're like, "Hey, your screen just went blank." I'm like, "What?" And I go out and I'm looking up the projector, and we didn't do backups. Shame on us, but at the end of the days, we didn't do backups.
Yeah.
So as I'm saying, hold doors, and I run around backstage, and I grab a scissor lift, and I roll it out, and we move some chairs, and I go up, and I'm pushing buttons, nothing's working, and I'm getting frustrated, and you know how that stress is building.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Lamano was the sales guy. He's down there having a fit and waving his hands and just being a sales guy. So I finally got frustrated, and it had a little flip door to get to the keypad. So I closed the flip door, and in frustration I was going to reopen it. Well, I just said, "Damn it," and I smacked the door, and the projector turned on. And I slowly brought the lift back down, drove it around backstage.
Yeah.
They said, "What'd you do?" It's like, it's a magic touch, man.
It's on.
All good.
It's on. Let's
We're
go.
all good.
It's on. Let's go. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
So, but there's little things like that we have dozens and dozens of last minute, oh by the ways, oh shit moments, as we call it, So, but that one's always stuck with me, and it comes up anytime I see Steve. He says, "I remember that time you smacked the Barco back to life."
So
little things like that are fun.
I remember this like large projection show we did. It was like one of the campus buildings at UCLA. This building was brick. It was like ugly. Like, how do you measure the gain value of a brick when you're trying? you know what I mean? So like, this thing was like football field length wide and a football length. It's about, if you picked it up, that's the
just
size
a football
of this
field
thing.
and stood
Yeah,
back up.
yeah. So this thing was massive. It was large. It was a large one. Because it was a building, it had all these like Notre Dame style like things, and you had to get all your images in and out. So when the sun was setting, the typical you leave your grid, make sure you're all good, you don't have anything offensive as far as like your convergences or signal, whatever, right?
Sure.
So I remember I think it was like 10 of us for the show. It was like a week-long install, three nights of show, and like load out or whatever. But like again, remember the keywords: UCLA and nighttime and event, right? So like, I remember it must have been the first or second day that we're looking at our grids and we're all on our radios. I think this was in the time of the FLM. So this was a few years ago, right? These things were
big boy projector.
It was a lot of power. It was very noisy, and yeah, it was a refrigerator up on a truss. So the way the trusses were, it was like a cube, and then a deck, and then all these FLMs, right? And
can you give me a half calf skinny latte?
yes, half.
Hi, you want me to get started for you?
Hi, can I please have a small pike place with cream and sugar?
How many sugars?
2 sugars, please.
Okay.
And I'll do a small hot mocha, please.
I'm sorry, what was that?
A small hot mocha?
A small hot mocha?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's it.
Alrighty, 777. Thank you.
Thank you. So
A lucky number.
Yeah.
Seems familiar for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah. So to give you more perspective on the setup, so it was like this building that was like this, and it was like, I want to say like 10 of these truss towers, right? and it was like a cube with like a deck. So these trusses went up maybe 15, 20 feet, and then all all these massive projectors. So we're getting down to it's showtime, sun setting, the grid's up, and we're waiting for all of this. You see a perfect grid blend, and then a zone that's doing this, and another perfect grid and blend. So we're like, what's going on? Is there like an earthquake happening like right there? Because it was this, right? It was I'm like, there's no way there's an earthquake happening just right. It was LA, so I mean you don't leave it up to matter, right? So we all bolt, and you see people running, and we had a production trailer. You see that door open wide, and people just gushing out. And we get to that stack, because again it was football length wide, so it was a pretty wide setup. And we get there, and it's just a bunch. It must have been a fraternity that saw this truss, climbed it, hung their shirts, and we're just doing pull-ups. Like, oh yeah, Chad, get 2 more. You got it, buddy. You got it. And it's okay. So it's like a cube like this, and think of like 5 dudes just all like, you got it, man. Don't look down. Don't look down. Whatever you do. And I'm just like, it was so funny because everyone like ran and was so shocked at what we're seeing that like everyone's mouth was open, but nothing was like get off, dude. Like, really? And like, oh man, you got this, man. And what I wish I took a picture of it. Not that it would have been weird, but like the way they flung the shirts like like over it looked like laundry. Like, okay, like they took the time to neatly hang their shirts, and they're just, you got this, 5 more, buddy. All right, you got it. And oh my god, I that's one thing that I'll never forget. Every time we talk about like convergences and stuff like that,
right.
like, hey man, I remember this one time. You know what I mean? This is one zone, but man, that is so awesome. Like, I really feel like with like the industry, things progressing, and the more I do these, the more I'm realizing how cool it is for me now that I get to be able to chat with a little bit of everyone, to hear everyone's perspective. I mean, before, for years and years and years, I was just kind of my own person, just literally showing up and helping my client or whoever it is I was working with.
Right.
If it was a tour or a corporate or like a install of some sort, theme park or whatever it was. It's actually awesome to hear some insight and hear like a little bit of everyone's perspectives. So like, what would you have like any good like advice for any new people coming in, being the everything we already chatted about, you know what I mean? And like for new, there's always a new crop of people showing up, and then probably what we feel like, okay, we feel this next wave of new stuff coming in. So for new people coming in, what would you have like any advice or anything like that? Or
I think it's an age-old adage that everybody who's been around this industry for any period of time that actually enjoys the industry,
sure,
and wants other people to succeed, and it's put in the time, put in the effort, show up every day early.
Yeah.
Always be early, so that when they say at 8 o'clock it's time to start working, you're the guy or gal that's already got your tools ready. You've got your gloves on. You've got everything that you need. You're gonna be so familiar.
You know what? We're shooting a web show, and we forgot to hit record, so we're doing
it again. We
I
won't.
did that once. My fiance and I were at the beach, and we started like, we had like the little button, and we just started like walking. And I like, it didn't record.
My hand won't stop shaking. I've had so much coffee. So like, yeah. So
so just be early.
Yeah.
Be the one that's ready every day. If the call time's 8, people seem to think that's 8 o'clock to try to make sure you're in the door.
Right. Thank you.
It is 8 o'clock to be ready to gig.
Sure.
Whether you're in the warehouse, whether you're in the show
seat,
site.
please? No. Yeah.
So that you are 100% leading the team, being there and ready to work. So to me, that old adage, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. Do that. Show that you actually care, but also realize that you are not going to start in the industry and in 6 months be a video engineer or even a video tech yet.
Yeah.
You've got to pay your dues. You've got to put in the time. But there's people that are general, and they're really good at being general AV stagehands. That's all that they really want to do. It works for them. But if you want to really succeed, you've got to pick a discipline. There's nothing wrong with being the audio guy or the lighting guy or the video guy or the scenic guy. Pick what fits your desire and then volunteer and put in the time. Always step up. Whenever they say, hey, can somebody help? Say yes. Even if you've never done it before, say yes.
Sure.
Give it a try, and you might say, wow, I thought I liked audio, but man, this video thing or even the scenic it's really cool. Find something that you have a passion for and then put in the time and the energy for it.
That is very well said. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, that's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've probably heard in a while. Different perspective, and I think that's all what it's about. You know what I mean? Hearing a little bit of a little bit of input on what everyone does, and then a little bit of advice along the way too. And yeah, that was awesome. That was very well said.
Nice.
So I want to get into this, and I know there's a lot to Robert Huskey. I understand you golf, you fish, and we do this, right?
You can go straight. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Walking in the street up there.
So, is there a tool that you need to have, whether it's whatever activity that is? Is there something that, hey, I need to have this ready to go?
I think that everybody that, depending what discipline you pick, will have a slightly different answer. But I feel that in our industry, the go-to gotta have every tech, everybody where everybody needs is a Leatherman.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a universal multi-tool for a reason. You got your knives, you got your screwdrivers, you got your pliers. It'll work as a hammer in a pinch. So to me, that has been the godsend and savior of a lot of shows over the years. Lost a lot of it TSA going through security. But the first thing you do is take a left here. First thing you do is when you get on the plane and you still have internet access, you get on Amazon, you order replacements.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So you have it waiting for you when you get home again.
My thing is like I don't know. I always imagine this whenever I see it. Right. I'm imagining the day that there's gonna be an agent with like a Leatherman with like a pocket right here, but with someone else's name. But then that person's gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, that's mine. You know what I mean? I always play that in my head every once in a while.
You still have to wonder when TSA closes up at the end of the night. They take all the stuff they've absconded with.
We got some cool stuff.
Yeah, it's like, hey.
yeah.
Okay,
it was a good day for us, guys.
Rock, paper, scissors on who gets the new Leatherman.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's awesome.
But this industry is special. I mean, you got the people that succeed in it, the people that make a career out of it. It's got a spot in your heart. It's kind of like you miss it when you're not doing it. You miss the people you do it with. It's a little bit of a calling, and a lot of people just have to stumble into it. It's not something you intended to do, or even knew existed. When you were coming out of school. But it's such a great industry to be involved in. And the people, for the most part, you're going to meet and become friends with. It builds a lifelong friendship with a lot of you people you'll meet in this business.
I agree with that. I mean, there is a lot of camaraderie, and then even if you get to a point where you're just showing up city to city, or even within your own town, and different people, different faces, but there are some familiar faces along the way that you eventually, see more often. You know what I mean? And I couldn't agree with you more on that. Especially my life before Evolve. I'd be in a different city here and there. Like, oh hey man, I didn't know you're gonna be here. Oh cool, I have a buddy now. You know what I mean? So yeah, that is a very very well put way of saying that. That's cool, man. I applaud you.
It is a people business. I think everyone owns gear. Everyone's got gear of some flavor. It's the people that you get to do it with that really make it more enjoyable.
Yeah. So, being that we're in the shop, and there's times where it's like by any means necessary to for whatever a situation might call, being that we're in a shop, right? So was there an all hands emergency, and what is like the longest shift you have ever done does that ring any bells? Have you ever experienced any of that?
If you pick the longest shift, everyone's that works some long hours. This industry demands it. A 20-hour day is almost the norm sometimes.
Sure.
But we had an unfortunate situation of an event that was in Washington, D.C., but it was the client was cheap. They didn't have the budget. They didn't book the room far enough out, so we weren't loading in until 5 p.m. They didn't want to pay for us to travel in the day before, so we had to fly in that day. So you're up at 6 a.m. at the airport for 8 o'clock, and the flight gets delayed, and we finally get off the ground, and at that point, the client wanted to load in early, so you're making phone calls to get the freelancers, hey, the trucks are there, start unloading. We get to the job site, it's now, we're on time, we're out there at 4 p.m.
Right.
An hour before we're supposed to load in, and you start up, and you're scrambling through, you get the show set up, and it kicks off the next morning, and I was trying to give the actual techs as much break as I could. So when we got to the midnight 1 a.m. window, and there's a 8 a.m. call the next day for rehearsals, you cut the crew loose and say, you guys go, I'll keep the hands. And we continued to set up all the way to 8 a.m., thinking at 8 a.m., I'll step out and I'll go get some sleep, 24 hours, no big deal.
Sure.
Well, we come in for rehearsals, one of the local hands, that's A2, was a no-show. So I said, well, I'll fill in until he gets here, we find somebody. We never found somebody. So we ran through the entire rehearsal, and then we kicked off the event that evening. They actually started with an award show, which was unusual, but it's the way they did their show. So I A2'd through the entire run of the show, and then there was a call at 8 a.m. the next morning again, but we had to turn the room. So I cut everybody loose, brought in new stagehands, and we struck all the special effects. We had airflow canisters and confetti for days, and just had to reset it back to the GS the next morning. So we worked the entire evening again. And at 7 a.m. when the crew came back down, that had been a 48-hour day. Now the client's a little bit wigged out because that wasn't what they were expecting, so we had to make some changes. And it was about noon, 1 p.m., which would then be the third day, and I finally walked out. So about 49, 50 hours. And then went up and slept till 5 and came back down to strike the whole show and load it out. So that was your realization that sometimes this industry is a little rough.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I couldn't be thankful enough, for the opportunities, that Evolve has given, a lot of people, including myself, and I feel very fortunate for everyone, all the cool stuff we do, all the cool stuff ahead, you know what I mean? And I want to thank you for getting some coffee with me, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, man.
Cheers.
I'll see you.